So many ridiculous things happening at the moment. So I thought I would do a little bit of a free PR lesson, public relations lesson. If, let's say, hypothetically, you were in a company and again, hypothetically, let's say it's a multinational fitness conglomerate, and your CEO goes on a racist tirade, in general at all, but maybe even especially when the world has been on edge for months for one reason or another. This is a bit of guidance in how you handle that from a PR perspective, from the position of if you're the CEO or the team of the CEO, and then from the position of if you're associated with that business, so whether you're an affiliate or a sponsor or a something, right? So I'm going to cover both. This is just general guidance. If I was in their PR team, this is the guidance I would offer in that position. And I want to clarify about PR. So when I went in to study public relations, I went in to study it. And this is before I knew where I was going with all of my business. This was a while ago now. So I went in to study it because I liked the idea of it improving how we relate to each other. It's public relations. So it's like, how do we relate to each other? Let's relate to each other better. That was always my intention, and that stayed actually pretty strong. So while PR people get a bit of a bad rap for being spin doctors, this is completely not with that intention. This is about telling the truth, but just some tips on how you might handle a situation like this should it arise. So for the CEO, if and when you do apologize for whatever remarks you have made, whether they were verbal, in email or on social media, if and when you choose to apologize, don't just give lip service, and don't still insist what you said wasn't racist if people are feeling like it was, especially those impacted. That's called gaslighting, and we don't want to gaslight people. We don't want gaslighting in the world at all. So if someone's saying, hey, that hurt me, it's not up to us to then say, actually, no, it didn't hurt you because I didn't mean for it to hurt you. That's not the case. You can still say that definitely wasn't my intention. However, I recognize that it hurts you and that's on me. When you are apologizing, don't just apologize for the pain or offense caused. You can definitely acknowledge that, but don't just apologize and say, I'm sorry that this offended you and that's why I'm sorry. I would recommend admitting and conceding that you were being insensitive, whether it was timing, whether it was words used, whether it was the fact that you said it at all. And as part of that apology, share the work that you'll be doing on yourself to improve. So bring it back to you in a non-selfish way. Bring it back to you rather than going, I'm really sorry that I offended. I'm all for anti-racism, which doesn't actually indicate, it just feels like you're apologizing for being caught or that you're apologizing for being called out. But if you actually look at that, you can go, okay, well, yes, I was being insensitive. These are the things that I'm doing to improve my mindset around these things, because these things matter to you. And in my position as CEO, I need to care more about what matters to the people that I work with or that are giving us money in some form or another of sponsorship or affiliation. Actually look at what work you need to do on yourself. If this is something that so many people are feeling like is an issue, generally that means that and you don't believe that it is an issue, generally that means that there is something that you need to look at within you as to why you think it's not an issue and why you're so staunch in feeling like it's not an issue when every other direction says it is. So don't band-aid your apology, basically. When people ask for your position on social justice issues, because it matters to them, because they are an affiliate or a sponsor of yours, or they're in collaboration with you somehow, and they want to know your position, don't call them delusional. That's not the way to do it. And definitely don't criticize their mental health and bring mental health issues into it, because you're just going to increase the issue of stigma around mental health for starters, but you're also dismissing the fact that they care about something and then they value something. And if they, as paying partners of you, care about something and they want to know your position on it, it's not up to you to blast them for it. It's up to you to actually find your position on it and be clear in that. And I'm not saying what your position should be, because that's a whole different conversation. But in this PR advice, it would be, look at your values and the values of the brand that you've created and the brand that people have bought into, and stick to them. And if they've changed, then the last bit I forgot here is consider if you're still fit for the position. Really consider that. Are you still the right person to head this company that has been built and built and built upon a distinct set of values that you aren't following through on personally, especially if you're not acting in a professional manner around that set of values? So really, really consider if you're fit for the position. And that's not even as a criticism, that's just as a what's best for the business. Am I still the right person, or do my values not align, or do I need a reality check? What is it? And then act on it and communicate it. So that's for the CEO or the team of the CEO in this hypothetical situation. For those who are impacted, so I've referenced you already, but if you've impacted, if you bought into this company in some way, maybe you're a shareholder or you're an affiliate or you are a sponsor or something, as far as handling this, especially when it's on such a public level, and people do care. That's the thing. People do care. They care about, especially more now than ever, they care about what a business stands for, because we vote with our dollars. So from a PR perspective, when this thing kind of blows up and it's not been your doing, but you still must respond to it, check your values, check on your values. And I'm not here to tell you what your values should or shouldn't be. If they are for racism, again, that's a very different conversation. But check on your values as a business and as a community, because guaranteed that you've created a community in this environment, in this affiliation or sponsorship or whatever it is, you've got a sense of community in your business somehow. What are the values of your community? What values did your community buy into by joining up with you in whatever capacity that is? If you need time to figure out how this impacts your business model, or what impacts on this business model is for you, take time. Definitely take the time you need. That is really important, not to rush into a decision, not to rush into something and say something that you don't necessarily mean without taking the time. You are allowed to, because there's been a lot happening, and this hypothetically is a big thing. So allow yourself to take the time to figure out if it impacts your business model, how it impacts your business model. Are you able to do that? Like, as a business, are you able to survive if that business model has to change? What's in your capacity? Allow yourself to look at it realistically, because you are running a business, and there is going to be an element of that, and you need to be realistic about that, and that is okay. Take your time. However, communicate that to your audience. Communicate to your audience in that time that you're taking. Don't just stay silent. I would advise you let them know that you're aware of what's going on, because they will be wondering. If they haven't asked you outright, they'll be aware, they'll be wondering, they'll be curious, and let them know that there are serious in-depth conversations happening with your management, or however your business structure is, with the team that are involved in the running of the business, that there are these serious in-depth conversations, and that you're making a point to look at it seriously and look at it properly, so that whatever you do choose to do, if any, well, either way that's a decision, but whatever you do choose to do will be grounded and not a knee-jerk reaction, and it will be well thought out and well considered, and it's still a safe space, and it's not a volatile space for your community to be in. They will really appreciate that. It helps people feel safe. So let them know that you're aware, let them know that you guys are sitting with it, but also, if you can, and I definitely recommend this, let them know when to expect an official statement. So whether it's in a few days or by the end of the week, you can say, like, we're working on this, we are having these real conversations, we're looking at it properly, we're making sure that we know what needs to be done in whichever direction we choose, or we decide on, not choose, but decide on. So we will release a statement by the end of the week, or release a statement by, it's Tuesday now, say Friday. Some people will want to know beforehand, but if you're communicating, and you can still let them know before then if you've already come to a solid decision, absolutely. But don't let it go on too long either. People will want to know, because it's the same thing. You vote with your dollars, and they are still voting with their dollars as to whether they're a part of your community based on what you do. And we can never please everyone, but that's why I say come back to your values. Definitely come back to your values. So let them know when to expect a statement. And then when it comes to your statement, bring your statement back to your values. So reiterate what your values are in the community that you've built. And that should be really easy if you've got that strong sense of community already, right? So if it's inclusivity, reiterate that inclusivity and why it's important to you. Make it clear what you are or aren't doing insofar as decision. Are you making a call to action to that company that you're involved with, that your community is wondering about what you're doing about? Are you making a call to action to the company? What is it? And are your actions dependent on the outcome of this call to action? So say you've asked for the resignation of this CEO, and then pending the resignation, you might consider affiliating your business with that company again. So let your community know that that's where you stand also, because then if, example, that CEO does resign, then you won't necessarily get the backlash from your community that might come if you then reaffiliate with them, because you've been clear in your intention. You've said, this is our issue, it's with this person, not the company, or whatever it is. Maybe it is with the whole company, but be clear on it. If there is a call to action, and if your decision is pending what happens with that call to action, be clear in that in your statement to your community. And then consider and maybe share, what are you doing to reiterate your values in your community? So sort of start with your values and then bring it in with your values, because that is the truth. And that is an opportunity to do those values more on purpose, and maybe to look at where you might have slipped. And if you haven't slipped, reiterating them to remind your community that you remember what they are too. And this is what you're doing towards them. And that's super, super important. And then be easy on yourself, especially say this is hypothetically happening right now. Be extra easy on yourself, because there has been a lot that you've had to deal with as a business, whatever kind of business you are. There's been a lot you've had to deal with as a business with everything lately, with certain levels of lockdown that have been tiered and sort of tapered back. So you've had to redo how your business functions almost on a weekly basis. And then on the way out of lockdown, you've had to do the same thing coming out of lockdown and communicate that to your community. So you've had a lot of extra emotional and probably physical work to do, and mental work, all of the work to do lately in order to accommodate for the different regulations and changes that have happened depending on where you're located, based on the lockdown requirements. So if this were to be happening to you right now, this whole scenario, it's okay that you feel a little weary, and it's okay that you might feel a little over it at the moment, or tired, or just need a break. And that's why I say communicate that you're having conversations, but take some time if you need to just sit with and talk about it within your management team and figure it out. Because when we've had to deal with a lot out of the norm, it can feel a little overwhelming, and that is totally normal. It is totally okay that it does, but just acknowledge that for yourself, rather than feeling like you need to just push through and that's all that matters and la la la. Actually just acknowledge it for yourself and allow that to be what it is, but yeah, be easy on yourself as well. So in the hypothetical instance that your CEO or the CEO of a company you're affiliated with goes on a racist tirade of sorts, that is what my PR advice would be. Communicate. Just make sure you're communicating, and if you're not sure of the answer, communicate that you're sitting with it. Let your community know what's going on, and check in with your values, definitely, for sure, because that's what will really, really matter, and that's what really matters moving forward as well.